Buckle up, listeners, because today we're taking a deep dive into a story that has it all. Ambition, deception, and a whole lot of blood, or at least that's what they wanted you to think.
That's right, we're talking about Theranos.
This company soared to unimaginable heights, promising to revolutionize blood testing as we know it, all based on a single drop of blood.
But behind the sleek facade and the charismatic founder, Elizabeth Holmes, lurked a truth far more troubling.
That's right, because this isn't just another Silicon Valley success story. It's a cautionary tale, a story about the dangers of unchecked ambition and the very real human cost of believing in a lie.
And you know what's truly captivating about the Theranos story? It's the way it gripped the imagination of some of the most powerful and influential people in the world.
You're talking about big-time investors, former government officials, even seasoned journalists, all buying into this idea that a tiny drop of blood could unlock hundreds of medical tests.
Imagine the implications if it had worked. Faster diagnoses, more personalized treatments, potentially even preventing diseases before they fully developed.
The possibilities were, frankly, mind-blowing. But that's the thing about promises. Especially in the world of medicine, they need to be backed up by solid science. And that's where the Theranos story takes a dark turn, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Because the reality is that the technology, the Edison device, which was at the heart of Theranos' claims, was fundamentally flawed. It simply couldn't deliver on the promises that Holmes and her company were making.
And yet, for years, Theranos managed to maintain this facade of success, attracting billions of dollars in investment. How did they pull it off for so long?
Well, you have to give Holmes credit. She was a master of persuasion, cultivating this aura of credibility. She surrounded herself with influential figures, people whose very presence seemed to legitimize her claims.
It's amazing how powerful a compelling narrative can be, especially when it's paired with the promise of disrupting a multi-billion-dollar industry. But the truth, as they say, has a way of coming out. And in the case of Theranos, it came from a rather unlikely source.
Right. Absolutely. We're talking about Tyler Schultz. Now, Schultz wasn't just any employee. He was the grandson of George Schultz, a former U.S. Secretary of State and, as it happens, a major investor in Theranos. Talk about family drama.
It's like something straight out of a movie. So here's Schultz working at Theranos, and he starts to notice these inconsistencies. He's seeing firsthand that the Edison device isn't producing reliable results. What does he do?
Well, initially he tries to raise these concerns internally, but his warnings are ignored, dismissed. Remember, Theranos was this high-flying darling of Silicon Valley, and no one wanted to believe that the house of cards was built on a foundation of lies.
So Schultz is faced with a truly agonizing dilemma. Does he stay silent, protecting his family's legacy and his own reputation? Or does he risk everything to expose the truth?
Well, thankfully for all of us, he chose the latter. In a stunning display of courage, Schultz decided to blow the whistle, leaking information to John Carreyrou, an investigative journalist at the Wall Street Journal.
And that's when everything changed, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Carreyrou's relentless reporting, fueled by Schultz's insider knowledge and backed up by meticulous research, started to chip away at that seemingly impenetrable facade of Theranos.
It's like a domino effect. First, one article, then another, each one revealing more cracks in the carefully constructed narrative. Soon, other employees, emboldened by Schultz's example, started to come forward, sharing their own stories of the deception and the pressure to silence dissent.
And then the house of cards truly began to crumble. Regulatory agencies launched investigations, lawsuits were filed, investors started to pull out, and the company that was once valued at billions was facing its inevitable downfall.
It's a story that's both fascinating and deeply troubling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It raises all sorts of questions about corporate responsibility, about the culture of Silicon Valley, and the ethical considerations that sometimes get lost in the relentless pursuit of innovation.
Precisely. And I think one of the most crucial takeaways from the Theranos saga is the need for greater transparency, especially in a field like healthcare, where lives are literally at stake.
We need more rigorous scientific validation, more independent oversight, and frankly, a healthy dose of skepticism when it comes to evaluating groundbreaking claims.
Absolutely, because as the Theranos story so powerfully demonstrates, the allure of a captivating narrative can blind us to the truth, even when the evidence is staring us right in the face.
It's a wake-up call for all of us. Entrepreneurs need to remember that integrity matters more than hype. Investors need to be discerning, not just chasing the next big thing. And we as individuals need to be more critical consumers of information, especially in this age of rapid technological advancement.
What's particularly interesting about the Theranos story, something that I think we all can learn from, is how it exposes the psychology of deception. Because it wasn't just about a flawed product. It was about the deliberate creation of a narrative, a carefully crafted illusion that captivated some of the brightest minds in the world.
It really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
How can we as individuals become more discerning, more aware of the subtle ways in which we might be influenced or misled?
It's a question worth pondering as you go about your day. What checks and balances can we put in place, both individually and collectively, to ensure that the pursuit of medical innovation never again comes at the cost of ethical practices and patient well-being?
It's a question that we'll continue to grapple with, but it's a conversation worth having because the stakes are simply too high to ignore.
Absolutely.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the Theranos scandal, let's take a moment to reflect. What have we learned? And more importantly, how can we use this knowledge to create a future where innovation and ethics go hand in hand? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and as always, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.